Hey YouTube, welcome back to Universe X, and this evening we are going to talk about the recent ban list. Now, of course, this would have to drop while I was on vacation, had no ability to actually come through with a video on it. But I'm here now. Because most of the ban list analysis has gone by, at least like the opening shock factor, I'm gonna go briefly over just the things that changed, and instead of reading the entire post they put up with the explanations, which you should go look at, I'll put the link in the description, I'm going to actually just talk about where I think the format goes from here, and kind of what's placed best going into Gen Con. So, if you guys like the content, think about hitting that subscribe button. We're growing maximum speed over here at UniX DVS, and we're gonna keep it going. We got a lot of videos planned. I have the blessing of having multiple good at the game homies, and so I've got 3 deck lists that I want to put up. One of them being this Cross Spirits Majin Buu, another one being Soul Striker Blue Black, and even though the field card did get touched in this list, my homie Nick, he actually ended up topping not with aggro KV but true mid-range KV. I'm just gonna call it true King Vegeta. And yeah, we got a lot of good stuff planned out this week. Gonna show you the full giveaway list for the box, because of course, like I said, I had to add my own stuff into it, and I just can't wait to get into it. So let's jump into what got touched. And yeah, as per usual, something I just definitely forgot to say, visit the Facebook group, visit the official group, and we got a little bit of a different segment. After we talk about the ban list and what the format is, I got a little message for the community, so stay hip with that too. Okay, all right. Looking at the things, we got a couple interesting things. So we got bans. The banned cards, nobody didn't see this coming. Belmod Double Devastation. You cannot get on any group or forum about this game without seeing people upset about Belmod. So you already knew that was happening. You got Mercenary Tau, Unequaled Assassin. You got Bardock the Resolute. You got Son Goku Power of Legend, and then you got Mecha Frieza. Okay, the leader. So 4 battle cards and 1 leader. We're gonna put it out here right now. You don't even have to go, you should go read, because Bandai giving explanations of why they ban things is very transparent, and I actually adore the fact that they do that. But you shouldn't really see how the first 4 things don't have the same thing in common, and that's that they allow you to lean heavily into aggro strategies. Belmod is another free swing after killing 3 things that you already turned sideways with. Mercenary Tau will come down literally for the free and provide 15k critical pressure. Bardock the Resolute will also come in and pretty much do the same thing. The same thing. Son Goku Power of Legend will also come down and do the same thing. These are all cards that will just be played for minimal effort and lend to the aggro strategies, because in a game where you're supposed to play energy or mana or any sort of tap resource to play X card, free plays are always in a precarious spot. You do kind of want to have red be the free play color if red is your aggro color, but you can't have this many cards be in the format and then wonder why people don't like playing anything that hard costs 4 or more. It's not the way. Now, Mecha Frieza, yeah, look, this is not even part of the question. Like, they tried to rebalance it. You can't rebalance an effect like play free cards on a leader. It's just hard to do so. So Mecha Frieza is gone. So he's been errated in his original form, and now his reboot has been banned. This makes the most sense. It would be just a nightmare and a half to try to rebalance the reboot card, or literally reboot the reboot. Unfortunately, the effect is just too powerful to let it sit in the format. In terms of limiting design space, you will never be able to make a yellow card that's an extra card more than a 4 out of 10, because Mecha Frieza can play it for free, likely. And when it comes to things like this, that's how it is. Like, and when you make a card that's a 6 or a 7, it's a 10 in Mecha Frieza. When you make a card that's a 9, it's a 15 in Mecha Frieza. So yeah, Mecha Frieza even takes other cards, like we're going to get to later, and turns them into detrimental just affronts to the format just because of its own existence. So this was a good card to go. Everything that's on the ban list needed to be out of the game for our format to be healthy the way it is right now. Now, limited, you've got King Piccolo, the new ruler, and Janemba, Bewitching Blow. Okay, so this is kind of weird. And by weird, I'm gonna go from the bottom up. Janemba, Bewitching Blow is kind of odd because it's not like a lot of decks were using it. But I can tell you that while a lot of decks weren't necessarily using Janemba, Bewitching Blow, that doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't a problem. When I was trying to dabble into reds or yellow skillless Gohan, it was kind of partially the move, you know? Like I did run 4 copies of this card because being able to, you know, discard or being able to bounce a vanilla for this card to then swing with it. It's got critical and dual attack. It swings twice for 19k and can be gotten out really early. And you can ball to get the other Janemba out, and you can pay 1 energy to get the other Janemba out. It makes a huge string of low energy investment chain combo plays. And yes, it's vulnerable to disruption, but this guy can come out very, very easily and provide 2 critical 19k swings. Yes, he's not necessarily a problem now, but you don't know what Bandai's making in the future. And I don't say that like I do. Like, I don't know what Bandai's making in the future, but we just don't need there to be a time where you can play like blue-black skillless or, you know, like blue skillless, and this card starts ruining people's faces just because of how it comes out and the fact that it has dual attack critical with 19k. That's pretty much, if this guy comes out on turn 2, you are not stopping its attacks, which means you just lose 2 life to the graveyard. That's not kosher. Now you've got King Piccolo, new ruler. Yes, I know they just released almost a new ruler for each color but yellow, you know? Blue got Tapion, green got the Spirit Bomb Goku that we can't quite utilize yet because our unisons don't gain stacks and markers that quick. But King Piccolo is free. And not only is King Piccolo free, King Piccolo also cannot be blocked. So this is kind of a different sort of beast. And red, while again, I do believe red is the aggro color and should have a certain amount of free play threats to push, there need to be more stipulations and they can't be this solid. And so limiting it to 1 is kind of in a weird space. You can't ever count on new ruler just being handy in the first 1, 2, maybe even 3 turns. But it is in a place where you know that if the game goes on long enough, you need to prepare for new ruler to come down and swing. Because if the game is gone 4 or 5 turns, you've given them quite enough time to reach maybe their singleton copy of new ruler and have it waiting in the wings to the perfect time to strike. You can't just put a blocker on the field and go, you know, 3, 4 turns in, or 4 or 5 turns in. So I am a little against limiters because it kind of makes it feel like you're just running an SCR. Like if you get sacked, you get sacked. But I don't think new ruler is something like that's, it's almost like Champa to me. Lots of people only run 1 Champa, but you always expect 1 Champa to potentially be an option when you're at 2 life. You don't just let a swing go through at 2 life if you can't out combo the Champa. So this is kind of I feel like this is very similar. Now we're gonna move on to the Errata. It's kind of funny because the Errata has 6 cards and it's just 3 Dark Broly cards and 3 field cards. So here's the thing. Before even reading it, when I saw this and saw these 3 Erratas, or these 6 Erratas, it let me know one thing, okay? 2 of these field cards played free cards, and 3 of these cards played free battle cards. So I already looked at this and kind of felt like the Errata was going to be adding more of a cost. And it was just that. 5 of these 6 cards were changed so that you had to pay 1 energy to use them. All 3 Dark Brolys now need to play 1 energy just to be able to be played. And then the, 2 red field cards also got energy costs attached to them. Planet Telful was a bit different. Planet Telful says that the full reduction of your counters can only happen if I'm not mistaken, when you have no battle cards in the field. Let me check. Yep, if your leader card is a blue baby card and you have no battle cards in play and all of your energy is mono blue, you can reduce it by 1. So what this means is if they have Baby Monkey on the board, or if they have Mechiorp, which they might stop playing because of this, or they have the Gohan that plays himself, and most of the baby cards do play themselves. If they don't clear their board before it's your turn, they have to pay full price for their counters. And that does change things up a little bit. Now, Planet Vampa also has a restriction put on, my bad, not an energy cost, but you have to have no battle cards in play. That means that Planet Vampa can't just add on to a board that you already have. Planet Vampa has to start your board from 0 to its first card. And then Young Invaders may have been one of the harder hits on here, maybe not as deserving, because if you don't make Young Invaders, if you don't make King Vegeta a low to the ground aggro deck, I think it's very manageable as a good mid-range red deck. But now with the field card requiring 1 energy per either effect, it completely changed the speed of the deck, and that's going to be a little odd. So yeah, the next card we have here, the funniest one, is the unbanning of Universe 9 Assemble. And the reason why I'm going to call this funny is just because Universe 9 Assemble isn't broken if Mecha Frieza isn't in the game. That's just simple as it is. There's no reason to have that card out. It's actually a really good card for Universe 9, and there's no reason to have it out of the game as long as Mecha Frieza does not exist. So I'm actually very happy that they had the ability to unban that card because Mecha Frieza was banned. So yeah, those are the changes. Now, that being said, I wanted to talk about some of the more interesting parts to, just this ban list and where we go from here. So one of the things you guys are going to realize, looking at this for more than the initial shock in 10 seconds, is that nothing really from blue or yellow or green got put on this list. This list mostly impacts red, followed by black. And I say this because while, Bardock the Resolute, Mercenary Tau, those were very specific, like they were being played in the King Vegeta aggro. They can be played in pretty much any red deck. It's just that King Vegeta was the best vehicle for the aggression. New Ruler was almost staple, an expensive staple, but almost staple nevertheless in red decks in general. So that's a huge hit. When it comes to Belmod, it was an extra free play aggro card, but Planet Vampa and Young Invaders were both very, very good field cards for their respective decks. So yes, red was the deck that got hit the most, followed by black. Black didn't see too many decks get touched, but Dark Broly was far and away the best black deck. I mean, don't at me. Actually, you can at me. I don't care if you really like Xeno Gogeta. I don't care if you really like, Mass Sand. Like, Dark Broly was far and away the best black deck, and it wasn't close. Like, your Gogeta pieces work better in Dark Broly with your deck. Look, the point is, with Dark Broly having a cost like this, you change the landscape of how the deck plays, and that's you bet your butt that's going to be another video for me, because you know how me and Dark Broly, we go back. So Dark Broly now not being the de facto, if you want to win with black, you could probably just play Dark Broly. You're going to open up the format to a lot of other black decks. Vegex could see more play. Reboot Mass Sand with the rainbows can see more play. Xeno Gogeta will definitely see more play. And whatever they print in the future, see more play. So that's pretty much that. That's going to be a huge part. Black is going to start to see other leaders, and we're going to actually see if these leaders can shine for what they were made to do. When it comes to red, while KV was whacked a little bit, and Broly BR was changed up a little bit too, I think it's very important to note that in terms of red cards, you still have your Piccolo Jr. that was untouched, the Unison. You still have your Merciless Barrages. You still have your Wolfang Fists. You still have one New Ruler. You have so many things. And all these things are good. And because Dark Broly isn't around anymore, your minus 15Ks actually feel very, very much so more impactful, because they turn people's things into barely slingable instead of just 15K neutral with your leader. So now, I do think red is still the best all-around color because of the red package. But blue is right up there with it, because now if you don't kill people by turn 4 or turn 5, blue's gonna get to a point where it starts really starting to take over the game. Yellow is kind of in a weird mystery space, because we're about to see a whole bunch of yellow leaders we barely knew existed because Mecha Frieza is gone. In green is very interesting too. Green just got a topo in its color. Green hasn't had anything taken away from it, but green still has everything that's been given to it over the past couple sets that we haven't been using, because black and yellow and red have been so powerful. And if blue becomes a better deck, then you betcha green will become a better color, because green's hand destruction does not play nicely with blue's strategies. So with that being said, basically this ban list allowed every color to flourish. Red is still going to be aggressive, but red isn't going to be kill you on turn 2 aggressive really. Black is still going to do black things, still use the Gogeta package, still be able to run overwhelms, but black is not going to make free 30k bodies that are very hard to deal with unless you make specific cards that hate on cheated out cards. Blue is still going to do exactly what blue did, and blue did what it did well. It can be tempo, it can be mid-range, it can be control if you're baby. Blue's still going to do blue things. And yellow is, like I said, the biggest wild card, because like I said, I think green is going to come back well enough in its hand control forms and stuff like that, but yellow has so many places it can go, and we haven't really seen yellow try to experiment because of Mecha Frieza. So all in all, I think it's pretty good. The next thing I wanted to do, I told the people in my chat that I would go in and read their comments. And that's what I'm gonna do. So, you know, we have Eric in my group, and if you haven't joined the group, Universe X is in the description. But I put up a status that said, a lot of talking, a lot of excitement, some hating, but y'all want to put your biggest takeaways, thoughts, and complaints in more in the comment section. I was like, well, when I make my video about the ban list, I'll read off here and answer them, you know? So we got Eric saying, he put up the Thanos meme, you know, all perfectly balanced as all things should be. Close enough. Closer than we've been in a long time. Eric said, the weirdest comments I've seen are from non-American players saying the ban list wasn't needed. I'm utterly confused by the meta that they that they have in the ban, or if the ban list wasn't needed. I'm confused too. And I'm not gonna try to hate on people that play outside the US, because, you know, like, I respect players who play the game, period. But I do need to know what your top list looks like. I need to know what your top cuts look like if you don't think this ban list was warranted. You got Nick saying, I think they did Young Invaders a little dirty, made any version of that deck unplayable. I think it is kind of true. It definitely is true. The Young Invader part, getting your opponent down to 4 organically in red was very strong, but I don't think it was broken. I think they could have left one of those effects not needing energy, and it probably would have been fine. But they definitely... that one may have needed more time to think about. Like, if you're banning all those free play cards, I don't think you necessarily need to ban or hit Young Invaders that hard, because Young Invaders really, it's hard to use now. Like, nobody's gonna pay 1 on turn 1 just to put a Young Invader on somebody's field. And then sometimes the auxiliary play of putting a Young Invader set up for next turn is no longer an auxiliary play. It's your main play now. That's kind of a that's kind of rough. That's definitely kind of rough. Next one. We got Armando saying that the Errata Star Broiler are necessary. I agree. I don't know how Gogeta dodged this one. Dude is huge, limited to 1. Oh, if you're talking about thwarting the Dark Empire, I don't really think so. I think thwarting Dark Empire doesn't need to be taken a 1. I think thwarting the Dark Empire needs, like, an Errata. Like, I think it's too splashable, because your super combo in black is Vegeta, because True Fighting Spirit is black. I think that maybe thwarting the Dark Empire needs, like, an Errata. Like, if you're Gogeta Zeno, he costs 1 energy, but like, maybe if your leader is a black Gogeta Zeno, then you can reduce the cost of this card by 1 black, but everybody else, but make the cost 2 black to play him. You know what I mean? That way you can actually splash him in decks, but it's going to cost a little more for how strong that card is. I don't know. He also said blue is still pretty strong. Well, he said blue is still pretty strong. Blue didn't lose strength or gain strength, but I agree with you. Blue's strong. He said red is still pretty strong. Correct. List is I. Sucks for those that invested in KV to be the best deck in the format for a few sets, myself included, but it is what it is. We are gambling after all. Take it on the chin, my guy. Armando's a stand-up guy. Like, if you haven't seen, what? Borders You Ballers, you should definitely do it. His podcast, well, not podcast, the articles Armando makes are really insightful and just can help you grow as a player. Got Nino. Banlist was expected to happen. I wish they waited a little longer so I can test my KV deck against my friends. Anyway, the positive is that the decks less aggressive can see light of hope. I hope they, however, I think they took it too far. The full aggro is less aggro and the full control is less control. Seems like all decks are in the thin Gauss curve, no real extremes. I can see that. Baby's still kind of really control, but I think this deck struggles with making a full control deck because pushing is always more beneficial than putting your hands up. And as long as that's the case, it's going to be hard to make a full control deck. They tried with Baby, but they had to link it to a field card, and now that's kind of broken. I got Chris saying that I feel like Janemba was random, unnecessary, and already had the wording to keep him as a hard once per turn. Everything else was great. People should have asked for Master Roshi back to 1. Okay. Mr. Chris, owner of TCGMetalZ, owner of amazing cards like this, which I will showcase. I agree and disagree. Basically, Janemba, I explained it early in the video, Janemba's kind of strong. They're strong for reasons. So I definitely kind of want to put that out of there. It's not that it couldn't be used more than once per turn. It's that consistently being able to see that the turn you can produce him is a lot of critical pressure for no real investment. It's rough. Giancarlo, shout out to Giancarlo. He said, I think it was perfect. They could have made Thwarting a Black Sand leader only, but honestly, it was perfect. I think if they did make a Black Sand dude, it would still be used the exact same way it is now. And they can't quite make a Black Sand because I know it was initially made to be played not only in Gogeta Zeno, but Supreme Kai of Time. So then you've got H. As a Red Whirly player, or a Red Whirly VR player who made the deck since release, I truly worry about not having almost any complementary pressure in the deck than the Vampa hit. But there's still some options to carry over. I feel like you can build in complementary pressure. I think Broly BR was an unfair deck mechanically. It did two things. I've explained this to a bunch of my friends, but aggro in its own way is hand destruction. You push cards into their hand by early aggro, but the moment that aggression starts becoming life-threatening, they have to expend cards to not die. So if you really think about it, aggro is its own form of hand control. Now, when you're doing that, and you're whittling down their hand, but also your cards are warping cards from their hand. Instead of having this meter of hand that you're trying to push down until you can kill their life, you now have the hand dwindling while you warp cards, while the hand dwindles to defend, while you warp cards until it pops. You're burning hand from two sides, and I think that mechanically is unfair. So I'm okay with Broly BR being a very archetype specific deck that's hard to splash with because it's mechanically not fair. And then last, Zach says Mecha did nothing wrong. Sick. So that's pretty much that. All I gotta say about the community, or to the community, is that y'all just need to be a little more patient. I think it's very apparent, and if y'all put it enough in the comments, I'll make a whole video on it. Bandai listens, Bandai watches, and Bandai does try to do what they can for the community. It's just a huge balancing game, and you can't please everybody, but it's hard to please enough. And they were definitely watching, they definitely saw our complaints, and people were just slamming them and being mad, when in reality they were just trying to figure out how to best work these things on the fly. And for anybody sitting here going, oh, crybabies, you guys just need to adapt and grow. Look, I am gonna go out on a limb here and say that y'all didn't have these problems that we were having over at table 267 at the last regional you attended. Like, I don't know, man. Just because you beat King Vegeta aggro one time at your locals where the fuse got soggy and it didn't pop off does not mean it wasn't killing people on turn 2 multiple times per event. Just because you've only played Dark Broly once and you saw Violent Rays 3 times in a turn and they never drew half their Gogeta package does not mean that Dark Broly was not oppressive. Just because you have lost to Red and Blue numerous times playing Dark Broly because you don't necessarily know how to outmaneuver floodgates does not mean that players that are more savvy at doing so have not destroyed people. I cannot tell you how many times I've played against Red and they have walled me for 2-3 turns, but the turn they did not see the necessary floodgates, they got swung at by me 10 times and folded like a lawn chair. Nah, these things were all problems and I'm glad Bandai has address them, and you should be too, because now you can play all these decks that you wanted to play but never would have been able to see the light of any remotely top table had these decks stayed untouched. So thank you guys for watching. Welcome to my TED Talk. Like I said, if you like the content, think about joining the UniX fam, subscribe, join the Discord, and I will see you the next time you decide to join Universe X.